Oh, shit, Colts Nation. We have got some action. Oh, do we have some things to talk about right now? What a day of news here for the Indianapolis Colts. And for those of you like, oh, Justin, I missed it. How can you be so excited? Don't worry, I'll get to it. Welcome. We're going to talk about it all. For those of you who don't know, and I believe many of you listening to this show would know, the Colts and Ravens held a joint practice today. And we're going to talk about that for the majority of the episode. After said practice, Shane Steichen announced what has been a secret up to this point for all of us Colts fans, which is Anthony Richardson will be starting in the first preseason game this Thursday at 7 p.m. against the Baltimore Ravens. He's expected to play about a quarter and a half of football. Daniel Jones, on the other hand, expected to play about half a quarter. And for all the math nerds out there, one sec, let me just identify with you and break down the numbers. Well, an NFL football game is broken into 4 quarters, meaning that if Anthony Richardson is to play a quarter and a half and Daniel Jones is to play half a quarter, that leaves 2 quarters of football that are going to be entirely the quarterbacks that are in a battle. As for the rest of the starters, I'm not really sure. I mean, I would have to assume they're going to get some level of run. History indicates with Shane Steichen that he does play his starters in games 1 and games 3 of the preseason. Hard to know if things are going to be any different this time around, given the nature of the quarterback battle. Of course, the Colts in a quarterback battle between Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. For those of you who are living under a rock like Patrick Starr, a quarterback battle for the ages going on right now. And then on the other side of the things, as far as the preseason game goes, it's also hard to know how many of the Ravens' best guys are going to be out there, right? So sure, Richardson and Daniel Jones are going to get a look in real game action against another team. Incredibly, incredibly valuable. This is the type of stuff that's going to decide the week 1 starter. But at the same time, the fact that we don't know how Baltimore is going to handle that in terms of, the level of competition on Thursday is what made today's joint practice so meaningful. And what did we say coming into this? Well, we said many things coming into this, right? For those of you who listened to the last episode, I told you everything you need to watch this week. But what we said coming into the practice, here are a few of them, okay? One, what we said was that this may very well mean, in terms of sheer takeaways that we can have, meaningful takeaways, might mean more than the preseason game in the sense that we know for a fact that the Colts' best guys are going to be versing the Ravens' best guys in this practice. Now, sure, it's not going to be full contact with 70,000 people in a stadium. It's not going to be the real thing. But at the same time, you're talking about a situation where the Colts are going to get a good look against a team who traditionally is one of the better teams in the NFL, right? You're going to get a good look against that team and really be able to take something away from it, particularly if you're to refer back to last year, where the Bengals and the joint practice we had against them foreshadowed what we saw for the rest of the season, which was Anthony Richardson, unfortunately, not performing very well. So that was kind of one of the points that we had mentioned coming into the week. And another one that we mentioned coming into the week, which we'll get into, was to keep an eye on Adonai Mitchell, who everyone is saying dominated in one-on-ones today and was also highly, highly effective in the 11-on-11s, which is kind of the closest thing you have to a real look in a joint practice. In fact, all reports indicating right now that not only did Adonai Mitchell have a day, but that the Colts really got the better of the Ravens today in more ways than one. Ravens reporters are going to frame it as they have as, the offense wasn't quite as sharp as it usually is. And then Colts reporters are going to say that the defense did work. So here we go. It's officially overreaction season because I am pushing all of my chips to the middle of the table on these Indianapolis Colts right now. NFL.com has this team ranked 27th in their power rankings. That's worse than the AFC South. They are plus 350 to win the AFC South right now. The Indianapolis Colts are making them 3rd out of 4 possible teams ahead of only the Tennessee Titans, who we all know have no shot at the division. They're plus 750. Right now, assuming Anthony Richardson's health, this team has a chance to surprise the world. Okay, so if you want to make some money on the Indianapolis Colts, I would do it sooner rather than later. We say not for anything to get into the practice. We say assuming Anthony Richardson's health, also assuming the corner's health. I mean, shit. Justin Wally Jalen Jones and Juju Brents all hurt right now. That's 3 of the top 4 guys on the team. Jalen Jones and Juju Brents were hurt coming into the practice against the Ravens. Wally also went down today. Nothing indicating that any of these guys are dealing with something particularly serious outside of maybe Jalen Jones. Things have been a little shh, shh. They've been a little hush hush, as Colts tend to be with injuries. But Lord, I mean, the Colts can never, severity or not, they can never just exhale at that cornerback position. It doesn't matter how many guys you have. Seemingly, it's a position that the Colts are going to deal with an excess of injuries at on every single season. Either way, we're going to go over the highlights from today, or some of the highlights from the day. Shout out to Jake Arthur, by the way. Shout out to James Boyd and all the other Colts reporters that made the trip to Baltimore to make sure that we had the information that I'm ultimately going to convey to you and react to right now. What are we going to talk about today? Anthony Richardson, check. Adonai Mitchell, check. Hunter Waller, the 7th-round pick, having a day, check. Also saw a great nickname for him earlier, by the way, that I will bring to you. Stick around for that. And then potentially much, much more we'll talk about, or potentially nothing else at all. But we're going to get into it. And before we do, you know what it is? I got to introduce myself. My name is Justin. This right here is the Riding the Bench Colts podcast. As always, ask anyone watching and enjoying the show, go ahead, shoot it a like. It's going to help me get out to as many Colts fans as humanly possible. Of course, subscribe if you want to be a part of the journey. We're on our way to 4,000 subscribers over here on the YouTube page. We're kind of somewhere in the vicinity, all things considered. So if you keep coming back and enjoying the show and haven't done it yet, or perhaps it's your first day here and you're enjoying the fact that we're very enthusiastic about these Indianapolis Colts, you hit that subscribe button, never miss another episode again. But if not, no big deal, no pressure. I'll be doing this for a very, very long time. Audio listeners, of course, what do I always ask? Leave a five-star review. Let the people know how much you're enjoying the show. Be civil in the comment section. You don't know what the person on the other end of the keyboard is going through today. But most importantly, actually, that was most importantly, be civil to one another. We're all rooting for the same thing. We're rooting for the Indianapolis Colts. But without further ado, I'm done asking you for shit. Let's get back into the regularly scheduled program. And of course, we're going to start at quarterback, and we're going to start with Anthony Richardson, because how can you not? Richardson, from what I can tell, was 10 of 13 for all of you guys that care about the numbers, right? In practice, 10 of 13 in 11 on 11s, including a 40-yard chunk gain to Adonai Mitchell. And before I even make my point, there's really a larger point, because it's not so much about the numbers at practice. I would like to make note that Lamar Jackson went 2 of 7 in the first 11 on 11 against this Colts defense. I'll bring it back to why it's relevant to Richardson in his day. Lamar also threw an interception in red zone drills, which we'll talk about a little bit more shortly, against a Colts secondary that at the time was missing Jalen Jones and Juju Brents. Now, why is that important? Why do I bring that up as I talk about Anthony Richardson? Well, number one, if we're going to talk about it from the Colts defense perspective, 2 of the top 4 corners out, and you're still containing a Lamar Jackson, albeit in a setting where he's not going to, run and do the whole bit. But 2, to tie it back to Anthony Richardson, this is the same defense that Anthony Richardson, while Lamar is going 2 of 7, limited sample size in an 11 on 11, Anthony Richardson starting to stack good days against this defense, right? Remember, slow start to camp for the offense. Slow start for Anthony Richardson against this defense, much like we just saw Lamar Jackson have. But the Colts offense has continued to trend upward against this defense. And by all reports, this offense today gave the Ravens defense, who again have kind of built a culture around good defensive play, gave the Ravens defense the business to some degree. Well, all right. We don't know how good, or we didn't know how good. I guess we still don't, realistically, how good either the Colts offense or the Colts defense is relative to other units in the league. But so far, so good against a traditionally strong Ravens team. And one of the things that I thought was an underrated benefit when we first got Lou Anarumo, right? All the excitement about the Colts defense this offseason, both in terms of hiring him as defensive coordinator, bringing in Mooney Ward, bringing in Cam Bynum, and kind of shaking this thing up a little bit. Sure, you were trying to improve the defensive side of the ball, but it was kind of a tool, right? Because you're practicing against each other. So if your defense is going to look better, it's going to force your offense to be better. And ultimately, if your secondary is going to do well, and think, right, Lou Anarumo, a defensive back coach by nature, that's his come up. Chris Hewitt from the Baltimore Ravens was a secondary coach for them that the Colts brought in this offseason. He had been with Baltimore for 10 plus years and coached all types of great players. I'm not even going to get into the name game on that, but I mean, he's very, very reputable at what he does. Colts secondary seems to have, at least so far on paper and in terms of the reports that we're hearing from practice, sharpened this offense a little bit and forced the quarterbacks to really get better because, again, Anthony Richardson, we're seeing now improvement from. And that same defense that Anthony Richardson is looking good against in practice gave the Ravens some fits. We'll see if this translates into Thursday night's game. And ultimately, we're going to see how it translates into the season. And knock on wood, we don't get any major injuries. But right now, I mean, things looking up here for the Indianapolis Colts on the offensive side of the ball. The vibes coming out of this joint practice much different than they were last year in the joint practice against the Bengals, which are you could look up how things went in that practice yourself. Now, staying on the offensive side of the ball, Adonai Mitchell, another fantastic day. It feels like every single day the Colts practice right now. You can't hear that name enough. He has been on an absolute heater. And even more importantly, at least for me, when I'm thinking about things that aren't on the field and I'm trying to dive deep and read into things that aren't just the way he's playing, the confidence he seems to be developing in himself. I mean, you see it in his media availability. You saw it. There's a clip going around right now of him doing a little mic drop after the practice. Stephen Holder reported that Adonai Mitchell was kind of chirping at him and James Boyd on the sideline after a big play that he had made, saying, "I told you so. I told you so." He's starting to show some swagger, and that's the guy that the Colts drafted out of Texas. He is going to be absolutely must-see TV this Thursday and potentially all of preseason. We're going to see how the Colts handle that. But, man, I couldn't be any more excited about him. I always say it to anyone willing to listen. This was a guy last year who was one of, and I'm talking before the Colts drafted him, he was my personal favorite receiver in the draft. And if you told me when all was said and done, he ended up being the best receiver in last year's draft, I would not have been surprised. That's how high I thought of him, which is why I had not at all given up on him coming into this season. And we're going to see just how far this thing goes. Adonai Mitchell, make no mistake about it. You can mark this right here. He has the talent. We're not saying he's there yet. He has the talent to be the best wide receiver on the Indianapolis Colts if he can put it all together. We know the route running ability. In a few years' time, it won't be a surprise if he's considered to be one of the premier route runners in the league. I think right now in one-on-one situations, if you're talking against man coverage, he already is, but not everyone knows it yet. But if he can put all of it together in real speed, in a real game where he's at risk of taking a lick, this guy is going to be a problem. And again, could very well end up being the best receiver on the Indianapolis Colts. I don't project that's what happens this year, but I'm talking about in due time. Adonai Mitchell, do not sleep on this guy. Do not give up on this guy. He's Reggie Wayne's darling. We all should give Reggie Wayne the benefit of the doubt. He, if anyone, has earned an opinion on and earned the right to have an opinion on the wide receiver position. Forget me. Reggie Wayne's the guy, and this is Reggie Wayne's guy, okay? So we have to take that into account. Great to hear the stuff out of from him in Baltimore Ravens, or really in Colts camp. A joint fucking practice against the Ravens. Who am I? I can't even speak right now. And then finally, Hunter Wohler, 7th-round pick out of Wisconsin. Ready for the nickname I heard from? Ready? Dun 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 dun. Back out! It's the ultimate Waller. How about that, huh? The ultimate Waller, Hunter Waller, not one, but 2 interceptions in the red zone today from what seems to have been the linebacker spot. And that's big news for the Indianapolis Colts because right now, you look at the Colts on the back and you think about all the investment they made in the defensive side of the ball. And the one thing we did look at here and say, hey, have we addressed this? Is that backup safety position? Now, I know that these interceptions were from the linebacker spot, okay? But Hunter Wohler is a safety that the Colts drafted in the 7th round from Wisconsin who was highly, highly productive. I believe led them in tackles 2 of the 3 years he started there, and is a guy that they kind of view as a utility piece that they could switch between linebacker and safety and kind of be a hybrid player that gives them a little bit of everything. But again, as a 7th-round pick, the expectations overall aren't for him to light up the world. But at the same time, 1 interception on Lamar, 1 interception on a backup quarterback in a room where the only backup that's worth noting is Rodney Thomas, who has started for the Colts, and he could certainly play. But again, if they thought that he was the guy, if they thought Rodney Thomas was going to cut it, they would not have gotten Cam Bynum, right? So that is what it is on that front. And again, Rodney Thomas did lose the battle to Nick Cross last year as well. But Hunter Waller now a guy who has entered the mix as maybe he gets a little bit of reps here for the Colts. A day like that against the Baltimore Ravens is certainly going to put you in position to be in position come week one for this team. And we're going to see that is a day of practice for the Indianapolis Colts against another team, which again is what it is all about. Training camp we love. We eat that shit up. Anytime the team is going to go out there in pads and play, I mean, it doesn't care if they're versing each other. We don't care if it's flag. Like, we're going to watch, right? That's what we do. We enjoy the game of football just as much as we enjoy the Colts. But ultimately, it's all to prepare you to play against other teams in this league. And the Colts' first test was a joint practice against the Baltimore Ravens. And all reports seem to indicate that they just passed that with flying colors. Woo! Things feel a little different here for the Indianapolis Colts versus last year. And you know what I always say? Disappointment is rooted in expectations. And if you expect less, you'll be disappointed less. But fuck. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in all of a sudden. I'm expecting something from Richardson. I'm expecting something from the Colts. And fuck, man, I'm excited for this season. We've got a month. We're going to see the preseason game. Knock on wood, no injuries. But man, that's a kind of that's it. I mean, that's what we had to say about the Ravens practice. Barring any major news coming out, you will see me. You're not going to see me till after the preseason game, in which, of course, I'll react. I'm not going to do a preview for the game. All that matters is we're watching the quarterbacks the first half. And then I'll sit there and kind of talk about that a little bit and go from there. But until next time, my name is Justin. This right here was and is, it's not, the Riding the Bench Colts podcast. Like, subscribe if you have not yet. But as always, go Colts.